What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Asking Fitness Questions that nobody asked for the answer to. On today's episode, we're talking about progressive overload. The question is progressive overload confusing? Well, the idea of progressive overload is very simple and straightforward, so let's talk about it. So the idea of progressive overload is that you increase the stress on a desired muscle over a period of time, and the desired result from this could either be increased strength, increased muscle mass, or increased endurance. Specifically for today's examples, we're going to be mostly talking about hypertrophy, so gaining muscle. That is going to be the main topic of progressive overload for today's purpose. In the hours leading up to making this video, I've watched a ton of videos on what progressive overload is and how to use progressive overload effectively. There's some videos that explain it very simply, and then there's other videos that go into much more detail. And that's where things start to get a little messy. So let's talk about the simplicity of progressive overload first. So the simple idea is that you can A, either add reps to a workout, or B, add weight to a workout. So let's show some examples. So we've got a 15-pound dumbbell. And for the purpose of this example, let's say that my absolute max is 12 reps with this 15-pound dumbbell. So thinking simply and using progressive overload, I can either increase from those 12 reps and start doing 13 reps, maybe 14 if I can get them. Or B, the other option, I can increase in weight. So say the next dumbbell jump up from here is a 5-pound increment. So I can grab a 20-pound dumbbell and then perform reps with there. Here is where things can get a little confusing. I've seen a ton of short form videos trying to simply explain progressive overload and using it in this way. They'll say, once you can do 12 reps for a specific exercise, bump up the weight to the next increment, so AKA this dumbbell up to 20 pounds instead of 15, and do it for 8 reps. That poses the question, is that creating more stress on the desired muscle? So the bicep, that's what we're working out with the bicep curls. I can only do 12. I went up to 20 pounds, and now I can do 8 reps. Is that actually increasing the stress on the muscle? In most cases, we would consider this progressive overload, but the actual definition of progressive overload is to increase that stress on the desired muscle over time. So say that 8 reps isn't necessarily progressive overload, but over time, we go from 8 reps with 20 pounds to 12 reps with 20 pounds. Then it would become very clear that progressive overload has in fact taken place. You did 12 reps with 15 pounds, now you do 12 reps with 20 pounds. It's very clear and very concise. But when you're in that in-between time, especially if you've hit a plateau and you can't get that 20-pound dumbbell back to that 12 rep range that you had with the 15-pound dumbbell, how can you be sure that you're actually stressing the muscle more and heading towards that progressive overload stage? Well, I'm asking you guys, maybe there's some mathematical equation of pounds per reps and total mass lifted that actually equates to showing some type of stress on the muscle. We know that math doesn't always equate to science and muscle building and things of that nature, but I'm sure there are studies out there that show specific stages of progressive overload and the overall stress of the muscle, taking things to failure, etc. Personally, I'm not aware of these studies. I'm not somebody who has an education background in fitness. I'm just somebody who works out and watches videos and self-educates themselves. And I like to ask questions and pose scenarios. So that's the idea of making this video. So we get the general idea of increasing in weight and increasing in reps is creating more stress on the muscle, progressive overload, yada yada. But let's throw another factor into there, something that I'm hyper conscious about and has kind of changed the way that I worked out and the way that I view progressive overload and the reason that it's gotten so confusing for me. My mindset is completely different every single day that I come into the gym. I don't know if this is true for you guys as well, but some days I'm a little bit more motivated than I am on other days. And I can tell how much this affects my actual workouts. Physically, my strength should be very, very similar on a day-to-day basis, hopefully with the idea of getting stronger every single day. But not only is your mindset affecting how strong you are in the gym, it's also your energy levels, your stress levels, how much you slept the day before, what you ate before you came in the gym, and a ton of other factors that could play into this. So all of these things affect progressive overload, but they aren't directly correlated with why progressive overload is confusing. And here's where it gets a little confusing for me. You can increase by reps and increase by weight, but there's a third option of progressive overload. And without going into too much detail about what the other options could be or branching off of this, we'll just call number 3 time under tension. Simply explained as the amount of time that it takes for you to complete one rep. And I think it's great to show an example of this. I think we can all agree that this first rep just looks like a normal rep. And the second rep looks really slow, but I think we can all agree that the second rep creates more stress on the desired muscle. And I feel that that's true with any workout that you may be doing, whether it's bicep curls, shoulder press, bench press, squats. If you have a slow, controlled, eccentric, or even eccentric, the overall time that you're completing that single rep is going to create more or less stress depending on how long you're doing the exercise. But I do think it's pretty clear that your reps can change from day to day. And this is the issue that I've been dealing with. Some days I'll come in super motivated and I'll be taking each set very seriously, and I'll be going very slow and controlled and taking things to absolute failure. And then other days I'll just be trying to achieve the number that I got the day before. Say I hit 12 reps with the bicep curls, I'm just aiming for that 12 number, and it doesn't really matter how I got there. My form may not be bad, but it's not the same as the day before. So the form and the way that you're performing the exercise is also a way to use progressive overload, but it also affects the other ways of using progressive overload. So if I'm only focused on increasing my reps on a specific exercise, I want to go from 12 reps to 13 reps. So instead of taking each rep super slow and controlled, I just want to hit that 13 number, then it's not truly considered progressive overload because I'm not creating the same amount of stress on the muscle. And unfortunately, if you continue to do this over time, it just makes things more difficult and confusing. And I think that that's sort of happened to me. When I first started this lean bulk almost 100 days ago, I had the intention of increasing weight, increasing reps, and using progressive overload as a tool during this bulk to gain a bunch of muscle, as much as I possibly could. So the idea was that I would follow some simple rules. Once I was able to do 15 reps on a specified exercise, then I would bump the weight up as small of an increment as I could, and then perform that weight until I hit failure. And then from there, I would build on those reps until I once again reached that 15 rep range and proceed in that nature. And about a month into that bulk, I felt like it was time to increase weight and everything. I had hit all the rep ranges that I was looking for, and I decided to increase the weight. So I did exactly that. Along with some other factors, I ended up injuring myself. And we all know that injuries take away from progressive overload, take away from your time in the gym, and take away from your progress in general. And it did exactly that. I wasn't able to work out properly for over a week, and then there was some recovery time where I wasn't able to take things to 100%. And I decided that it was probably just a better idea to just increase in reps with all of those workouts. And then I got this idea. Well, what if I start doing those workouts for the same amount of reps that I was doing, but started perfecting my form, taking everything super slow and controlled, really feel that burn and put as much stress on the muscles with a lower weight. The idea behind that being that I would have less of a chance of getting injured. I think that's a pretty sound way of looking at it. I just want to stay healthy and be able to stay consistent in the gym, especially on this bulk, and still try to gain muscle while I was doing that. So I started taking all of my sets slower than I normally would. And by taking each rep that much slower, I wasn't able to perform as many reps. The problem with this style of progressive overload is that from day to day, my mindset changed so much and my motivation level changed so much that I felt like some days I wasn't performing with that good, slow form, and I was just trying to achieve those numbers. So if I wanted to take the confusion out of everything and make this as simple as possible, here is what I'd do. Keep your current split, whatever your workout variations that you do, keep it all the same for right now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on the form and the time under tension of the actual exercises you do. I'm not telling you to change the style of your workout or anything like that, but we wanna make sure that everything is being done in a proper form. We also wanna make sure that we're controlling the weight, not just throwing things around, and we're getting use out of each exercise. We're putting the muscle, the intended muscle, under a good amount of stretch, and we're doing it in a mostly safe way. We're gonna try and keep that form no matter whether we're increasing in reps or increasing in weight. Instead of slowing down an exercise, we're only going to increase in weight or increase in reps. That way it becomes less confusing. Another huge factor that plays in is the amount of time you're taking in between your sets. I don't want you to change that either, but I want you to come up with a specific amount of time in between sets. I know it's not easy to set a timer in between all of your sets for a workout, but this is just a solution to make sure that you're getting the same amount of time in between each sets, from workout to workout to workout, from day to day, over time, to make sure that this progressive overload is working correctly. So 1, we keep our form the same. 2, we keep the duration in between sets exactly the same. We keep the time under tension exactly the same. And all we're going to focus on is increasing reps until we hit a threshold where we think that it's a high enough amount of reps. I would say 12 to 15 is a sweet spot. Once you hit a rep range that you're satisfied with, number 5, we're going to increase in weight. And I don't care how many reps you get on that next set of weight. I want that happy rep range to be your fail point. If you're hitting 15 reps, you should be failing at 15 reps. So when you do choose to increase the weight, no matter what reps you hit, it is at your fail point. So for example, let's just say it's 8 reps. So we're failing at 8 reps at the new weight. I want you to continue to use that weight until you can hit that happy threshold of reps again. But here's where it gets a little confusing. Maybe you increase the weight and you just can't get any more reps. You can't get back to that happy area where you were ready to increase the weight again. So you've essentially hit a plateau. So what do you do now? Well, I don't think I'm quite qualified to answer that question. Maybe we'll do some research and answer that in another video of how to overcome plateaus, but I think we can definitely say that progressive overload is confusing. How much weight do you increase by? How many reps do you increase by? What if you're hitting failure and you can't get past a certain point? How much is time under tension actually affecting your sets and your reps? How much stress are we enacting on the desired muscle? Is it actually increasing the stress on the muscle when we increase the weight? Well, these are all factors that play into progressive overload. And to keep things as simple as possible, you just have to follow some simple rules and keep everything as close to the same as possible day by day. So yes, I do think that it is confusing, but there are ways to try to mitigate that confusion and try to keep things progressing in the right direction. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click on one of the other videos on the screen here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.